So we have been talking about product, we have been talking about retail. So today we'll focus a little bit more on the communication side and also on how we can empower the consumers. So why communicating sustainability? I would like to start from this point. Well, because consumers still need to be informed, still need to be educated and inspired as well. And also other companies can be inspired by communication. So I believe that it should be one of the tasks of companies that would like to be responsible. Now, we know that communicating sustainability in fashion, but also in other industries, of course, it's also full of risks, because if you do not apply the walk the talk approach, then you run the risk of entering into greenwashing. And now that sustainability in fashion became cool, I believe that the risk of greenwashing, it has increased a little bit. So we need to be careful. We need to be, we need to ask as consumers, as managers, as professionals, we need to push the companies towards a higher transparency. And I believe also as, once again, managers, professionals, consumers, we also need to ask brands for a higher involvement. So involving more the consumers, maybe even creating communities. So it's important for the consumers to feel part of a community, just like the community of Fashion Revolution. And here I would like to start from Marina, asking the first question. So Marina, as country coordinator of Fashion Revolution, as leading expert on these topics, I would like to ask you this question. So final customers want to know, we understood, they want to know more about what is behind the product, but it can be a little bit risky for companies as they more and more are visible on sustainability. So what happens is that the more you are visible, the more you're exposed. You'll be questioned, maybe you'll be criticized. So I would like to ask you, what are, on your point of view, the challenges and also the risks in, let's call it radical transparency? And at Fashion Revolution, I think you have done a great job, and maybe you would like to mention even the Fashion Revolution Transparency Index, but not only, you have done a lot of things. So I leave you the floor, and yeah, about challenges and risks in radical transparency.
Thank you for having me on this beautiful talk. Very happy with great other speakers, so I'm very happy. Yes, it's very important to transparency is one of the key issues of sustainability. We've had a lot of uproar about the last transparency index because everybody was like, oh, how could H&M be high on the ratings? And so we had to send out an official release saying that transparency doesn't necessarily mean automatically sustainability. Transparency only means who is willing to tell and to fill in the questionnaire, and how transparent are they willing to be about their sourcing, about their materials, about their social practices and all that. And that is the first step before assessing whether a company is sustainable or not. Because if we don't have access to their data, how are we going to see if this company is actually doing, walking the talk, as you said before, or is just, a lot of fluff. So it's very important to understand that transparency is about sharing data, and it doesn't mean that that data that is shared is necessarily sustainable. So I just wanted to clear that out since you brought Fashion Transparency Index out. I think I always refer to companies taking their first steps in sustainability like a newborn baby. When a baby starts to walk, he's not running, he's not firm on his feet, he has to do the first baby steps. So this is the same, in my opinion, about companies. They have to start somewhere to start their journey towards sustainability. And I think associations like Fashion Revolution and many others have to help companies do these first steps. The important thing is that there is, from the company that takes the first steps, a commitment of continuity. Meaning, if you take the first steps, don't do it just as a one-off, stunt where you get a lot of press and you do maybe a capsule collection that it's completely sustainable. Great, fabulous. But then you have to continue. You have to continue a little bit at a time, because obviously big companies, especially, it's not that easy to turn sustainable from one day to the next. It's a very complex process, and it's better to tackle it, one bit at a time. But the important thing is the long run. The important thing is to be committed to do it in time. So this is one of the ways you can see whether a company is actually greenwashing or not, because if you see a big explosion of, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then the next season or the season after there is nothing, then you know that it was a one-off. So I think now a lot of companies are asking themselves what next, because I think this crisis has brought about a lot more consciousness, consapevolezza among the consumers. So there's going to be more and more requests from the base, from the consumer base, for products that are done respecting environment and people, while still doing profit. So the three famous P's. And also, as Fashion Revolution, we have launched an appeal to the European community to start with a bunch of law enforcement proposals. The document is called a Civil Society European Strategy for Sustainable Textile, Garments, Leather and Footwear. Basically, we have gotten together with a lot of other associations, just to mention a few. It's Fashion Revolution, Fair Trade, WFTO, a Clean Clothes campaign, a lot of different institutions and associations. And what we're asking the European community and Parliament is to pass laws that finally will put clarity among regulating the textile sector. Because what we have today is a lot of things are done on a voluntary base, and doing things on a voluntary base, as you know, doesn't always, it's not always reliable, really. So first and foremost, we want labels that tell us information about the product. So labels that have maybe a QR code that you can scan, and it will tell you where this garment was made, what it was made with, and a lot of information about the impact of that garment in creating CO2, or how it impacted the social, civil society where the garment was made. This is extremely important because we've had this kind of rules and regulations in the food industry and cosmetic industry for many, many years. And now we have to have it about textiles as well, because if we consider that the skin is the largest organ in a human body, whatever we put on our skin can impact it in a positive or negative way. So if we keep on letting people in faraway producing countries use, for example, colorants, color stuff that is full of heavy metals, and they're not using azo-free colorants, and especially because we in Europe and in America and Canada and all these countries, it's forbidden to use colors that have heavy metals because it's proven that it's very bad for your health. But the problem is that we keep on importing stuff that is done in countries where these rules and regulations are not present. And the biggest problem is that customs doesn't check. So we get an influx of merchandise coming in that is actually made with all this stuff that is not okay. The same would go if you buy, a bag of frozen minestrone, and it says all the ingredients on the back. And you want to read those ingredients, because if you are allergic to any of these things and you eat it, you could die. Well, same thing for textiles, okay? So I think the time has come to have a little bit more clarity, and also about the made in Italy. The made in Italy has to be regulated. It has to be clear what is really made in Italy. And it's not about making something outside and then getting into the country and putting on the last button or the last label and call it made in Italy. So we're asking for more clarity, and this will also help companies to have a roadmap and to have a way to go forward.
Thank you so much, Marina. Thank you for making this very clear point. For the participants that want to search for more information, I think you call it shadow strategy. So if you search online for shadow strategy, you will find, you will actually directly go to the, I think, Fair Wear.
Revolution also.
Yeah, and also Fashion Revolution. Yeah, so basically it's important that more than 60 NGOs, associations got together in order to, even behind the scenes, but basically, even if it's not official, let's say, but you are asking all together for a better regulation. So I agree with you on the fact that for a better transparency coming from the companies, and also better traceability, hopefully, we need to continue with the demand, but we also need to have a better regulation. So yeah, thank you so much. And we'll come back to you, Marina. I also want to ask you about the new book, La rivoluzione comincia dal tuo armadio. So I'll come back at the end. And now I would like to ask Nicola. So Nicola Giorgi, Senior Advisor, PwC, Italy.
Hi there.
I want to ask, hi Nicola, I would like to ask you at which point a brand can feel comfortable in communicating its sustainable improvement without being seen as a greenwasher. Because, you know, we have been discussing already with Marina, there should be a first step at a certain point. But, you know, when you can actually feel comfortable on, you know, doing and communicating without being perceived as a greenwasher, because maybe there is not enough done yet.
Yeah. Hi there. Hi, everybody. This is a very important topic because a lot of brands are reluctant in communicating because they think they are not perfect. So they end up stuck in a situation where actually they are not communicating enough. And this discussion has been going on in the industry for a long time. I mean, even in the companies I work with, one of the question was, why should we talk about sustainability? Why should we raise up the issue if we know we are not sustainable enough? But I think that the time has come because, as you said at the very beginning, companies need to walk the talk. And as Marina said, you need to start somewhere. So you cannot wait for being perfect to talk about, start communicating about sustainability. But I think that greenwashing is not just about the moment when you are talking about sustainability, it's really about the way you feel about sustainability. So one of the basic questions that marketing people, communication people are getting wrong is that they think that sustainability is about creating a positive image. So they tend to solve the issue by communicating, by using buzzwords. And we know there are a lot of, let's say, weak buzzwords that are used in advertising, in labels. I mean, and when I talk about buzzwords, I'm talking about words like being eco-friendly, like being organic, like being natural, like being green. So they really look like spices where you can spice up your communication by using these words. But it's not about the question on how can I improve the image of the company through sustainability. It's really about how can a company create value for the customer through sustainability. So you need to change the perspective. You need to address this issue. And first of all, you need to embrace a model of sustainable development. I mean, customers are savvy. It's not just about saying you are organic, you are natural, you are green, that you are solving the situation. It's not just about talking about the so-called housekeeping. I mean, by housekeeping, I mean a lot of brands are talking about the fact that they are recycling water, that they are using, they are saving energy with solar panels, they have waste targets. It's not about that. I mean, I still see a lot of brands that are talking about the fact that their staff are using, are not using plastic bottles while they are working. To me, this is just going around the topic. I mean, you need to have a model of sustainable development. You need to set targets. You need to be transparent, even if transparent is not enough. You need to be authentic. And when you start this this path, it's a journey. So there's not, to answer your question, there's not really a moment to start. I think now time has come for everybody to get started in a way or another, because around 30% of customers think that fashion companies are not telling the truth about sustainability. So it's not by avoiding the topic that you are addressing the thing. I mean, savvy customers are looking for purposeful, for purpose brands, and at the same time they want to have a purposeful communication. So I think companies need to get started. They need to check their claims, and they need to make it real. They need to make it relevant. I still see a lot of communication that is talking about grams of CO2 that are showing numbers and facts that for most of the people are not saying anything. This is just a way of going around the topic. There are still a lot of brands that are just trying to solve the thing by communicating that for every piece of garment that is sold, they're gonna transplant one tree somewhere. So it's not about balancing. It's not just about trying to let's say greenwash, as you said. There are still brands that are saying, why don't you take me to the shop some of your used clothes? And there are plenty of brands that are using this. But in the end, this becomes a kind of promotional activities, because in the end, it's not about taking your used clothes back to the shop. It's about showing how many recycled clothes you are using for making your clothes. So really, I think it's a matter of being aware and not treating this as a marketing or a communication topic. It's really about the business model of the company.
Thank you, Nicola. So let's call the 2020 the year of authenticity. So yeah, we'll start communicating sustainability. Probably all the brands will start communicating now, but I think it's the year of authenticity, also because there are younger consumers, the new generations that are more and more aware and conscious. And I would like to ask something to Stefano Bassi, Patagonia. So Stefano, my love mark, I have to say. And it is also the love mark of many new generations, consumers that are coming from Generation Y and Generation Z, so millennials and Generation Z. And especially Generation Z, I would say it's one step further in terms of being aware and conscious, and this is also what the researchers are saying. And some of them are even activists as the consumers, and some of the consumers that enter the Patagonia store or that are in love with Patagonia. So Stefano, how do you think brands should engage with millennials and Generation Z, so with the new generations, how you're trying to engage them? And maybe you would like to mention your Worn Wear program and also other activities that you're carrying out.
Yeah, thank you, Francesca, and thank you, Rafael and the team for inviting me. Yeah, I will come back to what Nicola and Marina said before, probably because I totally agree with them. And we all know that younger generations ask for more ethic goods, whatever it does mean, either in textile industry, in food chain, a little bit on transportation right now. And next would be probably technology, which is a little bit harder, but you know, we are streaming right now with very unfair technologies, even right now, even me. And there are a lot of studies and statistics about the demanding shifting of younger generations. And but we can see it also on a daily basis in the stores. There are more and more young people asking for the fabrics, where they come from, where they've been made, they're fair trade or not, what you're doing for environment and so. And of course, this is also a matter of a competitive matter. You know? Sustainability is nowadays a competitive matter, and you have to be careful in communicating that, not to be pointed as greenwasher. To this item by upcycling or recycling fabric. And this is a good strategy because actually, number one is a good practice by itself, right? Repairing and upcycling and recycling. But moreover, you can let customers be partners with you in your circular economy strategy. And it's really engaging for people. They feel part of the process that is much bigger than you can do it by yourself, right? So probably this is the key.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And would you say that what you were just mentioning, so behavioral campaigns, because at the end what you're doing are mostly behavioral campaigns. So you're not just advertising, but you're asking to the consumers, okay, be part of the community, do something. So you have always a call for action for them. So what you were saying, now we engage them by asking them to, okay, bring back the products, we repair it for free, or we take it back in order to recycle and get to the recycled polyester maybe. So would you say that this is the answer of, you know, that is somehow solving the issue? Because you know, sustainability, it's a buzzword, green marketing is everywhere. So in order to make sure that the consumers get the correct information and understand it, maybe you need to engage them. So there is actually no other way, or yeah, what do you think?
It is actually a call to action. We have to be aware that we as a company, even though we're making the stuff in a better way we can, in the best way we can, all along we won't do anything, right? So it's a call to action to the customers, and it's a call to action also among the textile industry, at least. But in general speaking, among all the business companies, whatever they do, any industry. I will share a little bit a story of my experience into Patagonia. When I joined Patagonia, it was 2006. And we already did a lot of stuff in sustainability, but I didn't know anything about that, right? I just needed a job, and to me, jumping into Patagonia or another competitor would be the same, right? And I started discovering what we were doing during my interview to get the job, because as I told the manager that hired me, who's still my manager actually, but that I was studying environmental sciences. I was working into the mountains for 10 years or so. He told me, you know, you are in the right place because we're doing this and this and this. But at the time, we didn't want to communicate that, as Marina, as Nicola said before, especially, because there was kind of reticence in communicating sustainability initiatives not to be pointed as greenwasher. Then we began to understand that we had to communicate what we are behind making clothes and selling jackets, because we wanted to open a discussion, an open discussion among the outdoor industry and the textile industry. And we didn't have the skills because at the time, sustainability communication wasn't that mainstream like nowadays. And also marketing team was not that prepared to this. And as Marina said before, we started very slowly, like step by step. But nowadays, you know, from our experience, as I told before, sustainability is a competitive matter. But it only works if you are reliable, if people can trust you. And to do that, you have to admit your mistakes too, because as a company, we did a lot of mistakes. And it's quite a big company. We're doing a lot of mistakes any day. We have to face to, you know, many compromises, of course. And once you communicate the good things you're doing, the best practice, and also the mistakes and how you want to manage for that and change things, now you are reliable and people trust you, and then they know that they coming to the right place if they want to buy, you know, something like Ethica or sustainability or something like this.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. And I just want to mention a great campaign that you had, I think in 2011, if I'm not wrong, the Don't Buy This Jacket campaign. I think is the best that we could get out of how to communicate sustainability, because it's simple, it's direct, it gets to the point, and it's a behavioral campaign because it's saying a lot of things. It's saying maybe you shouldn't buy now, you can wait a little bit further. You're also communicating that way the durability of the product. That is one of the elements that we need to consider, especially now, if you want to talk about sustainability and quality as well. So yeah, this is, I think, one of the best campaigns that you have done.
I guess that this was actually our first very, you know, sustainability-oriented campaign. It was pretty impressive that, and I mean, we didn't know what to expect from the customers. Of course, we started growing very fast from that point, because we are stealing customers from our competitors because of what we're doing. Also, if you read this ad on the campaign, we admit that also this jacket has a huge impact, has a huge footprint. And so this is a way to be, you know, the most transparent as you can.
Thank you. And by the way, now we know that you have not read Let My People Go Surfing when you went for the interview in Patagonia. Now we know.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I didn't know.
But now you're an expert. All right. So thank you, Stefano. And Nicola, once again, let's talk just for a moment, but we don't want to be too sad about the recession. Okay, so it is actually the beginning of a recession, and customer expectations and also the behaviors may change even dramatically. On your point of view, what's going to happen? So how do you think the consumers' expectations, especially related to sustainability, will change? And maybe you have a point of view also of about the different generations. Maybe the new generations, millennials, Generation Z, will behave differently compared to the previous generations. What do you expect?
Yeah, I have to say that I'm very positive about the situation when it comes to sustainability. Not talking about economics, but personally, I don't feel, let's say, doom and gloom, because, you know, about 28-30% of the millennials, this is coming out from a study we do every year at the PricewaterhouseCoopers at PwC, say that when they are shopping, personal health and the planetary health is very important. When it comes to Generation Z, this percentage goes up. It goes above 40%. I think it's something like 41%. And almost half of the customers say that when they are shopping, they are looking for a sustainable brand. This is when we ran the research was November, so it's very interesting to know what's going to happen. The reason why I'm positive is that there are a few factors that now are into place. The first one is that the situation now, the pandemic, is disrupting the supply chain. So most of the brands need to reconsider the business model and need to rebuild the supply chain. So it also comes as an opportunity to start doing things in a different way. And I'm not saying this in a rhetoric way, but think about the supply chain. I mean, it's going to change because there are a lot of brands that need to try a different way of sourcing products. And while they are doing so, they are thinking about sourcing the product from nearby, from closer countries, because it's very important. At the same time, I think that, of course, the pandemic is bringing into the picture some economical things. And what I do mean is that when it comes to fashion, most of the fashion as we mean it, it's about discretionary purchase. So there is a lot of customers that might delay their purchase because they don't have, let's say, access to that. But at the same time, because most of the customers are becoming very savvy, and more, I think that the way they will shop will also rely much more on sustainability. A lot of customers now are considering the way they are shopping. They have time to think about the way that they are shopping. They are thinking about if they need so many products, or if it's time to consider about shopping a little bit less, but at the same time a little bit better in terms of content. And there is a nice, interesting interview with Giorgio Armani that is saying that the world of fashion has to change, because it's not just about throwing new products every second day on the market, but it's much more about building collection that will last a little bit more. So this disruption needs to force companies to change their setup. So what they are doing backdoor, and by backdoor I mean the way they are sourcing the product, the way they are paying people around the world, the way they are trying to avoid the exploitation of people or forced labor, it's getting more and more important. What for sure it's going to happen is that the economic situation is making a lot of threats to companies that might not survive. So what I'm expecting is that the journey is not changing, that consumer will accelerate in this path into sustainability, but some companies might be forced to slow down a little bit, because in the short term, they will concentrate on surviving. So they are not changing the long-term targets, but they might go out to the customer saying, sorry about that, I'm maybe slowing a little bit down, but I want to build a purposeful brand to this respect. The big difference between generations is that Generation Z, so customers between, let's say, 15 or 10 years and 25, is much more interested in this. And funny enough, this generation is also interested still in shopping in physical stores. I mean, a lot of people think that the younger you are, the more driven into digital you are. Actually, it's the millennials that are shopping a lot on e-commerce. And by millennials, I mean, we mean people are around 30, 40 years of age. Generation Z is still talking about the social dimension of shopping. They used to go into shops, they used to go out with friends, browsing around. So again, this is very important because they are very conscious about the environment. They will not give up about the social shopping in a way. And of course, the e-commerce is bringing another dimension into the way they are shopping, because of course, people are, let's say, now accepting a lot of compromises when it comes to sustainability. I mean, the other day I received a parcel with a lot of plastic, a lot of paper, and a lot of useless stuff. But that was just because, you know, it's very difficult now to source the right boxes and the right stuff. But the company was very nice because they put a note and they said, we are conscious this is not the best way to deliver you stuff. We are going to change, but please beware with us. So again, the journey in the long term is there. and communication is important every day, because this is not about greenwashing. This is about being real in everyday shopping life.
Thank you, Nicola. So it's good. You expect buy less, buy better approach, and hopefully no revenge shopping, because there is a lot of discussion now about the revenge shopping as well. We'll wait and see. Let's see where the consumers and how the consumers will react. So back to Marina now. I would like to ask Marina, given this new context, given also where the consumers will go, and given the fact that companies will start communicating, they already started communicating sustainability quite a lot. So on your point of view, what is the biggest mistake a brand can make in terms of communication, once again, and also what new behavior the consumers also should implement to push a brand a step forward in the sustainability journey? And I know that you have published a book. The book is called La rivoluzione comincia dal tuo armadio, for now in Italian. So maybe you would like to share something with us about the book as well. I'm reading it.
Yes. Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I want to know what you think.
I will share.
Thank you. So going one question at a time, I think the worst mistake a company can make is communicating something that is not true. Basically, I think everything is accelerating. Also, consumers' awareness is accelerating. So if you come out with a big campaign or even with a statement on the press about something, if you are not telling the truth, you're going to be found out. And if you are found out, the damage that it's going to be done, it's so much greater than whatever advantage you might have had from the first communication to begin with. Like I said before, the other big mistake is not being persistent and not have continuity. Because if you don't have continuity, you're not reliable, really. And so people can tell that very, very quickly if you don't pursue a certain road. This is the mistakes. There's many other mistakes, of course, but this, in my opinion, in communication, these are the biggest mistakes you can do. Communicating something that is not completely true and not carrying on with good practices, because that comes out. I mean, there's too many investigative reports, there's too many journalists and even regular people that want to know. So sooner or later, things will come out. As far as consumers, what I always advocate is information. So you have to, before you go out and buy something, instead of doing this buying that is like almost like a bulimic approach to the shopping thing, just slow down and say, okay, I really feel like a red jacket. Go online and find out where you can find this jacket that it's done a little bit more according to what your requests and your ideals are, okay? And then when you go and spend money, at least you don't become accomplice to someone who's not behaving correctly. So you have to be really careful who you give your money to, because basically when you give your money to a company, you become directly involved in their practices. So you become an accomplice. So you don't do that. So we did, as Fashion Revolution Italy, for Fashion Revolution Day on the 24th of April, we published an online map of Italy with the green shopping places. We had put out a call already in 2019 in September. We closed the call in December, and we asked everyone who was aware of this call to send us their address, their location, what kind of product they are selling. And so now we've created this map. It's a digital map that you can find on fashionrevolutionitaly.org. And you can click on your city and find the places where you can go and do shopping that it's more sustainable. Because many, many times when I go and talk or I meet people, they're like, it all sounds fantastic, but where do we go shop? where will we find these things? It's not that easy. It's not that obvious. So now there's a map. There's many other tools. There's something called Investito Verde. There's other, there's lots of websites where you can find out a lot about sustainable companies. So before you do your purchases, just do a little bit of legwork and a little bit of reading and find out where you can find something, where you can find an item that it's been done following, not damaging planet, people, and still making profit. So this is my advice to customers and to consumers, because a purchase and buying something is not anymore just an economical action, it's also political action, because every time we buy something, we actually vote for the world that we want. So we're all in this together. We're all, each one of us has to do a little bit, okay? And this obviously is what I talk about in the book that I wrote with Luisa Ciuni, who's a journalist, and we approach, first we see why fashion is where it's at, how come we became one of the most polluting industries in the world, and then I go into like, how can we come out of this? What can be done? What is innovation? Why innovation is one of the most promising landscapes we can see today in fashion and in sustainability. All the things that can be done as simple citizens to make this shift. Because if more people become aware and people start behaving in a better way, we will create a critical mass that will tip the scale towards a better industry. I would love to be proud of my industry and to see that, we are sustainable, we are helping communities, we are paying the right price, we are finding, with innovation, solutions that save, our beautiful planet, all the suffering that we're putting it through. So it's a very, it's an easy read, but it's also a very practical read. I'm a practical person, so I want to tell people, listen, we have solutions at our fingertips. Let's use them, let's make a difference, let's go forward.
Thank you so much, Marina. I'll come back to you because I would like to share with all of you actually some questions that we received from the audience. So now I ask a question to everyone and you decide who goes first. Basically, we have been talking about education, and I read the question. So we know that we must also change how we behave as consumers by buying less, buying better, and taking care of what we own. To what degree do you see the responsibility falling into brands to help customers change their behavior, or maybe is not their job to educate? So they're asking, who should be in charge for educating consumers, on your point of view?
I think this should be taught from a very early age in school. I keep on saying that I think it's really a disgrace that we talk the hour of, in school we used to have like social behavior, like how do you behave, not making a building dirty with some paint, educazione civile, civil education. We used to have this also in elementary school. I think if we bring that element back into schools and we make it richer with an element also of like simple sustainable practices, from recycling to doing this, then we will have citizens that are much more responsible, and half of the problem will be solved. But if we don't invest anything in education, and if we don't tell kids how to behave and what's right and what's wrong,
Yeah, I agree with you, Marina. And I also believe that we should all try to be included into the education, but maybe let's ask also Stefano on the brand point of view, and Nicola as a consultant.
Well, I totally agree with Marina, and I also think that school is a best way to educate people in younger generation. But I see also responsibility we have as a brand altogether towards the environment and the communities that works for us actually all around the world. And so I guess that it should be also part of the job of a company, especially if we are committed to the sustainability. It wouldn't work if we don't communicate and we don't try to shift the market and the demand, not just on the textile, but any kind of purchase you can make. And so, yes, I guess that we should combine all those aspects. Also, the decision makers should have in charge for that.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what we just said, but I think that education also can get a little bit faster. The consumer is at the center, so he's responsible, and in the end, he's the person who is controlling the market. So awareness, it's very important. And if you let me end and then try to answer with a little joke, most of the customers now are experiencing something that they never experienced before, which is a clean sky. They can see deer going and crossing the roads. They can see that the water of Venice is not polluted when the boats are not going around. And when factories
the dolphins, almost the dolphins.
And when factories are not producing clothes or other stuff, the air is less polluted. So in a way, the situation is educating customers that a cleaner and a better world is possible. But at the same time, we know that we need to balance that. Because, I mean, we cannot live in a world where nobody's producing, nobody's working, and everybody is, let's say, less rich than before. We need to keep on going. And the only solution that can balance that is by finding a balanced way of running the economy. And the only answer to this is by going sustainable, because it's the only way where you can get good in the economy, and at the same time you can get a clean sky and better water.
Thank you. And I think one last question, it's referred to Marina. And so Marina, before you mentioned about the Made in Italy, so I think they were referring to this, and especially about the fake Made in Italy. So you were referring to regulations before, and especially to the Made in Italy laws. So they ask precisely, how about regulating also the Made in Italy on the basement? So do you think this can be somehow regulated? And then also, what as from inside the business, what can we do against these bad competitors? It's quite a strong answer, strong question.
Okay, so there is a very strong need for legislation about what it means to be made in Italy. And I think we have to protect what is made in Italy, because we have such amazing production, craftsmanship, materials. I'm always happy to say, and very proud to say that as a designer, when I go shopping for yarns or textiles, the Italian companies are certified, they're doing all the right things, they're like, really, we are at the top of the scale. When I go and look at PT Filati for yarns, everybody's certified, everybody's doing sustainable yarns, it's fantastic. So we have to protect this. We lost so many jobs and so many industries closed down in Italy when we just didn't regulate at all what could be imported from outside and what could be imported from the Far East, but not only from the Far East. So we have to start protecting our companies, we have to start protecting our workforce, and really the government has to step in. We have to have, if it's not the Italian government, then we have to have something at a European level. But I wanted to say something on a positive note, is that studies have been done that companies that are honestly turning green and turning sustainable actually have proven that their profits are rising much more than companies that stay doing linear economy. Also, banks, I know that, for example, Banca Intesa, it's giving loans with different interest rate. If a company or a startup goes to Banca Intesa to look for seed money, and their proposal is of like a linear economy sort of thing, so you design something, you produce it, you use it, and you throw it away, they have a certain interest rate. If a company goes with a serious plan that it's of circular economy, they get a discounted rate. So already we see also in the financial sector that these things are becoming more and more important. And it's proven that companies that go sustainable and go green actually in the long run turn, they say almost about 30% better results and better profits than companies that don't do anything. So this should help.
Thank you, Marina. So we should all ask the government to have incentives for sustainable, full made in Italy brands.
Yes.
All together, let's fight for this. Let's do a manifesto. Let's get together. One last question. We have 2 minutes, but let's see. So it's about fast fashion, and it's for all of you. How can sustainable aiming brands fight with the fast fashion brands who are going to take this as an opportunity to lure consumers by giving them heavy discounts to clear their inventories due to overstock? We can already see this trend, a lot of discounts, and also in the past month, discounts up to 70% and huge increase in the online for the fast fashion brands. So what to do?
We are working with, I can start. We are working with several brands. Of course, I cannot disclose them, but one of the big topic is about how to streamline the collections and how to manage the inventory. Because of course, the excess of promotions and the excess of production when it comes to fast fashion, but in general, when it comes to clothes, is not sustainable anymore. A lot of brands are changing now their business model, because also fast fashion is based on a huge number of customers that go into the shops, and let's say 10% of them would buy. But now these shops are forced to take appointments. They are forced to reduce the number of people that go into the stores. So as I said before, there is a disruption in the supply chain. And I think that we will see a lot of brands that are taking the opportunity to restructure the way they are producing in order to avoid too many promotions and too many clothes in the market.
I agree. I think things, especially in luxury markets, we should do limited editions. We should have pieces that are numbered. We have, when something costs a lot, wouldn't it be lovely to see that you've bought number 10 out of 56 jackets that were made, and we decided to just make these 56 jackets, and they're just so exclusive that you feel very special when you buy it. And I'm saying you could be 100 jackets, it could be more, but wouldn't it be amazing if big luxury brands made their product even more special by doing, targeted, selected productions of numbered pieces? How chic.
I agree, Marina, and maybe instead of throwing or dispose that piece away after 20 years, you can reuse it or you can resell it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So Stefano, would you like to add a last word? But yeah,
no, I totally
Patagonia
agree.
is like this, right? So you have not so many SKUs, and I find a lot of SKUs that are carryovers from season to season. So
we have a lot of carryover. We're going to have much more right now, of course. And well, we're fighting against fast fashion forever. And I'm glad that Nicola pointed out this disruption of supply chain to a way to produce and sell stuff. And I'm really curious to see how fast fashion companies would, you know, regenerate themselves and maybe they're not delivering 50 collection per year anymore, as they're doing right now, basically, you know. So I agree that it will be a shifting into the market and also into the way to produce and sell stuff. But I don't know how they will face to that, because this is how they've been working forever, and this is how they're being built also. So it's a big challenge for them more than ever.
okay, so let's wait and see, I will say. And for sure, the fact is that they already started to close stores in Italy. But yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see what the strategy will be also for them. So thank you so much for our guest speakers, for the participation. Nicola, Stefano, Marina, thank you so much. I leave the floor once again to Raphael to invite all of you for the last event.
Yeah, indeed. Tomorrow is our very last event for this series, but a very important one also, because we're going to talk more about new business model. You can find in the chat the link to our webpage with more information about sustainability, about our events, and our contact also. Thank you again for joining. Thank you to you, our speakers. It was amazing to have you with us today. Thank you, Francesca, again, to be with us since the beginning of this week. And thank you to my team to make this series possible. And I hope to see you all tomorrow at 5. It will be at 5 this time, not at 6. So you have more time for aperitivo after. And thank you very much, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.